begging him not to take it off. She watched. When he did, the truth froze his soul. The desert town of Red Hollow was quiet, dry, and often lonely. Dust moved through the streets like ghosts in the wind. People there lived simple lives, but fear had slowly grown in their hearts over the past months. Ranches were being taken, families were losing land, and no one seemed strong enough to stop it. Then one night, everything began to change. A stranger arrived during a heavy storm. The wind was sharp, and thunder rolled across the sky like angry drums. Through the dust and rain, a horse appeared on the edge of town. On it sat a man wearing a long dark coat, a wide hat, and a worn leather mask that covered most of his face. No one knew who he was. The townspeople watched from behind doors and windows. Some whispered he might be a thief. Others thought he could be a bounty hunter. A few even believed he was something worse, a man running from his past. But the stranger did not speak to anyone. He simply rode through town and stopped at the old abandoned barn near the edge of Red Hollow. That was where he stayed. Days passed, and the town slowly noticed strange things. Broken fences were fixed overnight. Injured horses were treated and returned to their owners. Water wells that had been damaged were repaired without anyone asking for help. Every morning, people found signs of work done during the night, and every time someone tried to find out who was helping them, there was no answer, only silence. The stranger never removed his mask, not even once. Because of this, people began calling him the Masked Cowboy. Some feared him more each day. Others felt grateful but confused. Why would someone help a town without asking for anything in return? Among those watching closely was a young woman named Elena Carter. Elena was strong but tired. Her family ranch, once full of life, had been taken by a powerful land baron named Victor Hale. He claimed the land was his by contract, but everyone knew he used fear and money to control the valley. Elena had refused to leave the ranch. She stayed in a small cabin nearby, trying to survive on her own. She worked hard every day, but it was never enough. One evening, as she was repairing a broken fence near her land, she noticed the masked cowboy watching from a distance. He did not come closer. He just stood there, silent and still. Elena felt something strange, not fear, but curiosity. After a long moment, he turned his horse and left without a word. The next morning, Elena woke up to find her broken fence fully repaired. Fresh wood, strong nails, and even a reinforced gate stood where the damage had been. She knew immediately who had done it. Days later, they finally spoke. It happened near the water well at sunset. Elena was filling a bucket when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, and the masked cowboy was standing there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elena broke the silence. "Why are you helping me?" she asked carefully. The man paused. His voice was calm but heavy. "Because some things shouldn't be taken," he said. Elena studied him. "Everyone says you are dangerous." He did not deny it. Instead, he looked away. "People believe what they want." She took a small step closer. "Then tell me the truth. Who are you?" For the first time, his silence felt different. He hesitated, as if the answer carried pain. Finally, he spoke. "It is safer if you don't know." That answer only made Elena more curious. Before she could ask more, he turned and walked away. But as he left, he stopped for a moment and said something that stayed in her mind. "Don't try to see what I am hiding." Elena stood there long after he was gone. The desert wind moved around her, but her thoughts were stuck on him. Who was he really? Why did he hide his face? And why did it feel like he was protecting her, not just the land? That night, Elena looked toward the old barn where he lived. A faint light was glowing inside, and for the first time, she made a decision she would later regret. She would find out the truth about the masked cowboy, no matter what it cost. The night in Red Hollow was colder than usual. A sharp wind moved through the empty streets, shaking old wooden signs and making the town feel even more silent than before. Most people stayed inside their homes after sunset. They had learned that the world outside was not always safe anymore. But Elena Carter could not sleep. The words of the masked cowboy kept repeating in her mind. "Don't try to see what I am hiding." She sat near the small fire in her cabin, staring into the flames. Her ranch had once been full of life. Her father used to laugh while fixing fences, and her mother would cook meals for workers. Now everything was gone, taken by Victor Hale, the land baron who ruled the valley with fear and money. Elena clenched her hands. She hated feeling powerless. And yet, there was something about the masked cowboy that made her feel safe, even without knowing who he was. The next morning, she went to the water well again. As expected, the repairs were still there. Strong wood, clean structure. Someone had worked through the night again. She did not need proof anymore. It was him. But today, she was determined to speak to him again. She walked toward the old abandoned barn at the edge of town. The place looked even more worn during the daylight. The wooden walls were cracked, and the roof was half broken. Still, she knew he was inside. Before she could knock, the door opened. The masked cowboy stood there. He did not seem surprised to see her. His posture was calm, but there was something heavy in his silence. "You came again," he said softly. Elena nodded. "I needed to talk." For a moment, he looked around as if checking if anyone was watching. Then he stepped aside, letting her enter the barn. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the smell of wood and leather. A small lamp lit the space. There was a horse resting quietly in the corner and some tools neatly placed on a table. Everything looked simple, but carefully maintained. Elena turned to him. "Why are you still helping me?" she asked. "You don't owe me anything." The masked cowboy did not answer immediately. He slowly removed his gloves and placed them on the table. His hands were rough, marked by old scars. "I don't help because I owe," he said finally. "I help because I cannot walk away." Elena studied him closely. "From what?" His eyes shifted slightly. "From things I have done, and things I failed to stop." The words were heavy, but still unclear. She stepped closer. "People in town say you are dangerous. Some even say you are running from the law." A faint, bitter sound left him, almost like a short laugh without humor. "People always talk," he said. "They always build stories when they don't know the truth." Elena took a deep breath. "Then tell me the truth." The barn became silent again. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. The masked cowboy looked away. "The truth is not safe for you." "That is not your decision," Elena said firmly. He turned back to her slowly. There was something tired in his eyes, like someone who had carried a heavy burden for too long. Before he could speak again, distant horse hooves echoed outside. Both of them went quiet. The sound grew louder. Elena stepped closer to the door and peeked outside. A group of riders was passing by the edge of town. Dust rose behind them like smoke. She recognized their leader immediately. Victor Hale. He never came to Red Hollow without a reason. The masked cowboy moved beside her. His tone changed slightly. "You should go inside." But Elena stayed where she was. "Why is he here?" The cowboy did not answer. Instead, he watched the riders carefully, his body tense now. His calm presence had changed into alert focus. After a moment, Victor Hale stopped his horse in the distance. He looked toward the barn. Even from far away, it felt like he was searching for something. Then, just as quickly, he turned and rode away with his men. Silence returned. Elena exhaled slowly. "He was looking for you," she said. The masked cowboy did not deny it. That silence said everything. Elena turned to him. "Who are you really?" His hand moved slightly toward his mask, but stopped halfway. For a moment, it looked like he might finally answer, like the truth was close enough to touch. But instead, he stepped back. "You should not be part of this," he said quietly. Elena's frustration grew. "I already am part of it." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke words that stayed in the air like a warning. "If you stay near me, the past will find you too." And with that, he turned away again, disappearing deeper into the barn shadows, leaving Elena standing with more questions than before. Outside, the wind grew stronger, and somewhere in the distance, danger was slowly moving closer to Red Hollow. The wind over Red Hollow grew stronger that night, as if the land itself sensed danger coming closer. The sky was dark, with thick clouds hiding the moon. The town felt unusually quiet, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was the kind of silence that came just before trouble. Elena Carter stood outside her small cabin, looking toward the old barn in the distance. Ever since Victor Hale and his men were seen near the edge of town, she had felt uneasy. Something was about to happen, and she could feel it in her chest. Inside the barn, the masked cowboy was not resting. He was cleaning his gear slowly, as if preparing for something important. His movements were steady, but his eyes showed tension. He already knew what was coming. A soft sound broke the silence. Horse hooves. Many of them. The masked cowboy stopped immediately. He stepped outside the barn and looked toward the darkness. From the far edge of the desert, lights began to appear, torches moving closer. Victor Hale had returned, but this time, he did not come alone. A group of armed men rode behind him, their faces hard and cold. Dust rose around them like a moving wall. They stopped near the center of Red Hollow, just outside Elena's land. Elena saw them from her cabin window and froze. She knew this was not a normal visit. Victor Hale slowly stepped down from his horse. His eyes scanned the area until they landed on the barn, and then he smiled. "I know you're here," Victor called out loudly. "You can stop hiding." The masked cowboy walked out of the barn slowly. He stood between Elena's land and Victor's men. No words were spoken at first. The tension was heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. Elena ran outside, stopping a few steps behind the masked cowboy. "Don't do this alone," she said quietly. He did not look back. "Stay behind me," he replied. Victor Hale laughed. "Still protecting her?" he said. Even after everything? The masked cowboy's voice was calm but firm. Leave this place. Victor's smile faded. You don't give orders anymore. One of Victor's men raised his gun slightly. The situation turned dangerous in seconds. Elena's heart raced. She had never seen such tension before. Suddenly, Victor raised his hand, stopping his men. I didn't come for her land today, Victor said slowly. I came for you. The masked cowboy said nothing. Victor tilted his head. Or should I say, for who you really are. A cold silence followed. Elena looked at the masked cowboy. What is he talking about? She asked. The cowboy did not answer. Victor stepped forward. You think wearing a mask changes your past? He said. It doesn't. The masked cowboy's hand slowly moved toward his face. Elena's breath stopped. Don't, she whispered without realizing. But the cowboy paused only for a moment. Then he said softly, You deserve the truth. And in one slow movement, he removed his mask. The wind seemed to stop. Elena saw his face clearly for the first time. It was scarred, marked by old battles and pain. But it was not just the scars that shocked her. It was recognition. Her eyes widened. No, she whispered. The masked cowboy closed his eyes for a moment, as if carrying a memory too heavy to hold. Victor Hale laughed again, but this time it was sharper. Now you see, he said. The hero you trusted is not who you think he is. Elena stepped closer, shaking her head. This can't be real. The cowboy finally spoke, his voice low. I never wanted you to find out like this. Memories started flooding Elena's mind. A burning ranch, a night years ago, a name she had tried to forget. Her voice trembled. You were there, that night. The cowboy nodded slowly. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Victor watched them both carefully, enjoying the moment. He didn't save your family, Victor said. He was part of what destroyed it. Elena felt like the ground beneath her was breaking. The masked cowboy stepped forward slightly. It was not what you think, he said quickly. I tried to stop it. I failed. But Elena could not hear everything clearly anymore. Her world felt shattered. Still, she did not step back. Her eyes stayed on him. Even with truth revealed, even with pain between them, something inside her refused to turn away completely. The cowboy looked at her, expecting anger, hatred, anything. But Elena only whispered, Why did you protect me then? He had no answer. And in that moment, distant thunder rolled across the sky again. But this time, it was not just the storm approaching. It was the past catching up to all of them. The night over Red Hollow felt different now. The wind was still moving across the desert, but it no longer felt like only nature. It felt like time itself was shifting, pulling hidden truths into the open. Elena stood frozen for a moment after seeing the masked cowboy's face. The scars, the tired eyes, the familiar pain. It all felt like something she had seen before, but buried deep in her memory. Victor Hale watched quietly, waiting for her reaction. His men stood behind him, but even they seemed unsure now. The situation had changed. Something deeper than land or money was unfolding. The cowboy slowly lowered his head. I never wanted you to see it like this, he said softly. Elena's voice trembled. Who are you? Really? For a long moment he did not answer. Then he took a slow breath. My name is Daniel Cross, he said. The name hit Elena like a distant memory returning after years of silence. Her eyes widened slightly. Daniel continued, his voice heavy. Years ago, I worked for your father. Elena's heart tightened. She remembered her father talking about workers, ranch hands, and a trusted man who helped manage the land. But then, she remembered the fire, the night everything was lost. No, she whispered. That night, the fire? Daniel nodded slowly. I was there. Elena stepped back in shock. The pain in her chest grew stronger. Victor Hale smirked slightly. Now she understands, he said. But Daniel raised his hand slightly. It wasn't like that, he said quickly. Your father discovered Victor's plan to take the valley. He refused to sell. Victor sent men that night to force him. Elena's breathing became uneven as memories and truth mixed together. Daniel continued. I tried to stop them. I fought them. I saved who I could, but I failed to save everything. Silence spread across the land again. Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she did not fall. She stood still, trying to understand the truth she had never known. So you were not the enemy, she said slowly. Daniel shook his head. No, I was the one who survived when others didn't. Victor Hale stepped forward again, his patience gone. Enough stories, he said sharply. The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is this land. He pointed toward Elena's ranch. This belongs to me by contract, he said coldly. And I will take it tonight. His men shifted slightly, but something felt different now. Even they seemed less confident. Elena wiped her tears slowly. Something inside her had changed too. The confusion was still there, but now it was mixed with clarity. She looked at Daniel. You stayed here all this time, she said softly. You helped me. Fixed everything. Protected me. Daniel nodded. Because I couldn't fix the past, but I could protect what was left of it. Elena took a deep breath. Then she turned toward Victor. You took everything from my family once, she said, but you will not take anything more. Victor frowned. You think you can stop me? Elena did not answer him. Instead, she stepped beside Daniel. Fight, he said quietly. Elena shook her head. It's already my fight. A long silence followed. The desert wind moved again, but now it felt like change was coming. Victor raised his hand, ready to signal his men, but before he could speak, voices began to echo from the distance. More riders, but not Victor's men. Townspeople from Red Hollow appeared on the horizon. Farmers, ranchers, and workers. All the people who had once been silent. They had seen enough. They had heard enough. One by one, they stopped beside Elena and Daniel. Victor's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. This town, one man said firmly, does not belong to fear anymore. Elena stepped forward. You built your power on lies, she said. But you forgot something important. Victor narrowed his eyes. What? Elena looked at the people standing behind her. You can take land, she said, but you cannot take courage. The crowd slowly moved closer together. Victor hesitated. The control he once had was slipping away. Daniel stood quietly beside Elena, no longer hiding, no longer running. Victor looked around, realizing he was outnumbered, not just by people, but by truth itself. For a moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, he turned back to his horse. This isn't over, he muttered. But as he rode away with his men, his voice no longer carried power, only defeat. Silence returned once again to Red Hollow. But this silence was different. It was peaceful. Elena looked at Daniel. You don't have to hide anymore, she said softly. Daniel looked at the land, then at her. For the first time in years, he seemed lighter. Maybe, he said quietly, it's time I stopped running. The wind moved gently across the desert as the first light of morning began to rise over Red Hollow, and for the first time in a long time, the town was no longer living in fear. It was finally beginning to heal.